Good evening and welcome, everyone. My name is Josh Owen. I'm the Massimo and Lella Vignelli Distinguished Professor of Design and the Director of the Vignelli Center for Design Studies. Tonight, we host the sixth and final lecture of this academic year's Vignelli Design Conversation series, presented by Design Milk and made possible in part by the generosity of RIT alumnus Chris Bailey and Bailey Brand Consulting. It's been a challenging year, to say the least, but this lecture series produced a sequence of bright spots on our collective calendars, and our speakers have both illuminated us and inspired us to do better. For this, we are forever grateful. I invite you all to join our mailing list on the center's website and stay tuned to our social channels for news about next year's exciting speaker series. Rochester Institute of Technology's Vignelli Center for Design Studies is an international hub for education, research, collaboration, and advocacy, which expands the scope of the programs in the College of Art and Design School of Design. The facility houses the archive of renowned designers Lella and Massimo Vignelli, whose works are icons of international design. The center and archive sit within RIT's College of Art and Design, which was built on the traditional territory of the Onondaga, or people of the Great Hill. In English, they are known as Seneca people, keepers of the Western Door. They are one of the 6 sovereign nations that make up the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. We honor the land on which RIT was built and recognize the unique relationship that the indigenous stewards have with this land. That relationship is the core of their traditions, cultures, and histories. We recognize the history of genocide, colonization, and assimilation of indigenous people that took place on this land. Mindful of these histories, we work towards understanding, acknowledging, and reconciling. As stewards of history and content, we must acknowledge and seek to learn from our context, bad and good, ugly and beautiful. This applies to the Vignelli Center, as with any archive. The Vignellis taught us that design is a systematic framework for solving the world's most intractable problems. If 2020 has taught us anything, it's that while we as humans are adaptable, our societies and systems have major flaws. We're at a point when we need to have difficult discussions and work to create a new balance in the world. In this, design must play a critical role. As the new director, I aim to make the center even more accessible and applicable by bringing in exciting guest contributors from diverse and underrepresented backgrounds who are using design in innovative ways. The Vignelli's Design is One philosophy leaves us with the universal message that design is a lens through which we can envision a more inclusive tomorrow. Before introducing tonight's guests, I'd like to take a few moments to set the stage. Out of respect for our presenters, participants will be muted for the duration of the event. But we do encourage you to enter questions you have for our presenters using the Q&A feature both during and after the talk. And we'll try to get to as many of the questions as possible during our closing Q&A segment. I want to thank Jace Rivera and Samantha Prain, who will once again be our sign language interpreters. For tonight's lecture, we have not one, but 2 individuals who in their partnership have learned to work as a single unified voice. In May 2011, Odile Hainaut and Pijoulat met and decided to join forces to launch a satellite event in conjunction with the International Contemporary Furniture Fair, initiating a movement within the New York City design community to build a true design week in New York. WantedDesign, now with 2 fairs in May in Manhattan and Brooklyn, and a permanent design store in Brooklyn, is a year-long international creative platform that brings together the global design community to showcase, discuss, and share exciting, inspiring, and innovative projects and designers. WantedDesign has become a premier international exhibition during New York City's annual Design Week. Born in Paris, Odile Hainaut has an educational background combining French literature, performing arts, and musicology. In 1992, she began working at Raison Pure, a French international design and branding agency. As Director of Communications, Hainaut undertook substantial marketing, design, and communication projects, building its reputation as a major player in the branding and design world. For 2 years, she managed the communication for the international launch of a fragrance collection, Eau de Murano, and led the creation of limited editions with renowned Murano artists. She moved to New York in 1999 and pursued the work she started in Paris, successfully building the communication and PR strategy of the US operations of Raison Pure USA, now named Force Majeure. Her immersion in the world of design deepened in 2007 when she created New York's Gallery Art Pure, an experimental space dedicated to contemporary collectible design. It was in her parents' boutique in Annecy, France, that Claire Pijoulat was first inspired by design. At a young age, she started to attend design trade shows in Paris, gaining exposure to the unique culture of art design, interiors, and architecture. She earned a master's degree in international business in Italy, and after many years of study and collaborations in Europe, she was hired by French design house Roche-Beaubois as marketing director for the US, moving her to New York City. For the next 8 years, Pijoulat developed the marketing efforts of Roche-Beaubois for the US market. This included international, domestic sales strategies, collaborations with international and French designers and architects, relations with art and cultural institutions, as well as being an active proponent of French art de vivre. As a veteran of around 25 consecutive New York City design weeks, I can say with some experience and perspective that Odile and Claire, let's say double-handedly, not single-handedly, transformed what began as primarily a commerce-driven event into one which elegantly blends culture and commerce into a rich and compelling dialogue and experience centered around design. Theirs has been a vision which transcends the space for which it was originally allocated within the calendar year. Beyond extending the business ecosystem it supports, WantedDesign has forwarded critical dialogue on the important issues of our time and has engaged and nurtured young talent in its wake. For years, New York City wanted a design event structure which would function as a nexus, and WantedDesign filled that need as promised in the brand's name. Please join me in a big virtual Vignelli welcome for a truly dynamic duo, Odile Hainaut and Claire Pijoulat of WantedDesign.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. Hello, everyone. We are pleased, and it's a great honor to be here with you today. RIT has a very special place at WantedDesign and in our hearts, many great memories and many collaborations with you those last years. I have to say one memory is the visit of the Vignelli at WantedDesign back in 2012 when Josh and RIT students were presenting Meta Project with Corning Glass. So a warm hello for those in the audience that we may know. We are all going through challenging times, especially you students. And we hope we will have some answer for you today with this talk. It's all based on our personal experience and design industry knowledge. We want this talk, most of all, to be energizing and filling you with optimism, hope, and new perspective. So we are going to give you a quick introduction of who we are, what we do, and what WantedDesign is. We will give you some insights of what conscious design means to us and what we believe it means to be a designer today. Then we will talk about how to start your career as a designer, and we will touch on the notions of resilience, empathy, curiosity. We will continue with some business advice, and we will share some success stories we witnessed over the past 10 years. So stay with us.
And thank you for attending this event tonight. Since you're here, students, that means you're already making the right choice by showing up. And before we get started, one thing that we'll touch on today is curiosity. So here's the first action you can take is be curious and prepare your questions. We'll make sure to keep enough time at the end of the presentation for Q&A because we want to hear from you. If you'd rather share your questions by email or reach out to us, you can also do that through our website. So let's get started. I'm going to tell you a bit more about WantedDesign, what we do, and Odile will explain how we met and how we got there. Josh did such a great job defining what WantedDesign is. I almost want to skip to the next slide, but I'll try to give you a little bit of background. WantedDesign is not just one thing that we can really explain in a 30-second pitch. Sometimes even us, we have a hard time summarizing what WantedDesign is because we do so many things with so many people from so many different countries. It feels that it's hard to define it in just a couple words. WantedDesign has become, over the past decade, an international platform dedicated to promote design, connect the various actors of the industry. Through virtual and physical events, WantedDesign helps create opportunities for designers, manufacturers, architects, design students, and anyone in the industry. Opportunities to meet people, to discover products, talents, design studios, and companies. So today, WantedDesign is an online platform, but WantedDesign is also the producer of 2 trade events, WantedDesign Manhattan and Close Up, in collaboration with ICFF, the International Contemporary Furniture Fair that is traditionally hosted at the Javits. WantedDesign is also a design festival that we host at Industry City in Brooklyn, which hopefully will resume in May 2022. And for students and design educators, WantedDesign is a place, virtual or physical, with workshops, events, exhibition, and now an award. We are also the operator and curator of a design boutique in Brooklyn at Industry City. So online platform, trade events, design festival, design education, retail, that's what we do. But WantedDesign, above all, is a network and a community of passionate people from whom design is at the center of the conversation. And it's with people that our platform became what it is today and keeps growing and keeps evolving. We want to reach to the larger audience also, and it's important for us to have a larger voice when it comes to talk about design. So Odile, how did we get there? I'll let you tell the story.
Sure, all right. So first, I want to say that what is unique and pleasant about WantedDesign is that it is most of all a human story. And we'd like to share it because it's relevant. And somehow you'll see it reflects many notions we will be talking about during that presentation. So how did we meet? How did we meet? We both were French New Yorkers for many years in the design world. We didn't know each other. I was running the design gallery in New York, like Josh explained. Claire had left her position of North American marketing director for French manufacturer Roche-Beaubois, and was working independently on design projects when we met. A friend of ours introduced us to each other. And it all started within the very first time we met and that very first conversation we had in October 2010. So to make it short, during this 3 hours conversation we had, we realized we had the same vision for creating a new design event in New York. And we had a different but complementary background, expertise, and network. So it was the right time, certainly the right project, and also the right time for both of us, the right stage of our career to start an adventure like this one. We were ready for it. And New York was prepared for it too. After the big 2008 crisis, there was a tremendously talented community of design studios here in New York with a strong entrepreneurial spirit. And they all supported our project because they needed a platform that will showcase American design and designers to the world. And that was missing at that time. There was no official design week neither in New York City, which was unbelievable to us. So we saw it as a blank canvas and an opportunity to build an original event reflecting truly what New York is about, at least for us. So that was the foundation of WantedDesign. It became this rendezvous for the local and international design industry and community, combining culture and commerce. And I want to say that when we talk about design, when we use the design word, it means everything that touches on where we live, on how we live, and what surrounds us, from furniture, lighting, materials, to home accessories, and it includes interior design and architecture. So that was WantedDesign. That is WantedDesign, an original and human scale event to facilitate connections, rethinking the traditional trade show format and bringing the design industry and community together, initiating collaborations, offering opportunities to develop business in the US, putting the spotlight on American design, and creating a launchpad for young international designers. It was, I have to say, it's still very personal. We welcome our guests as if we welcome them in our house. It's true. So for sure, we had a great instinct and trust in each other right away. So we are sharing that story for you to better understand who we are, yes, but also to illustrate how finding the right partner to work with is key to success. And honestly, what can be better than to work with the same vision, the same pleasure, the same passion, and same commitment for more than 10 years with someone? And that's what it is with Claire. And let me tell you, this is something we realize and that we value every day. So that brings us to the first important notion that we would like to talk about. It's being conscious, and in particular for you, being a conscious designer. So what do we mean? What it means to be a conscious designer? It's mainly taking responsibility. Taking responsibility of the impact a designer can have both on the environment and on shaping people's lives. And this notion of consciousness became more and more important year after year for us, and I guess today more than ever, to the point that we created a Conscious Design Award 3 years ago with Metropolis magazine to spotlight the students' project that embrace those notions. It's really, really important. The role, but also the responsibility of the designers in our world today is greater than ever. And I think you are really lucky as design is today recognized as a tool, a process, a need that goes far beyond designing nice products. So it's a great responsibility again. Be responsible. Think about the impact you can make. And you have many opportunities in front of you. Be relevant, observe, respond to the world around you, design with the others in mind, and always choose the sustainable answer. It certainly seems obvious, but as you work on a project, on an idea, always think and care about the environment, about the people, your community, and not just short term, but think long term. Part of this consciousness notion is also being conscious about who you are, where, and what are your strengths? What can you best contribute to? And what is your contribution as a designer, and how you can be successful and how you can be a successful designer? Yes, for sure, it's your creative and designer skills, but it's also your personality, your sensibility, your work ethic, and your ability to work with the others and for the others.
Okay, now that you know who we are, what we do, and why you should definitely take our advice, we want to give you some key guidance as you enter your professional life. And we're going to use the current situation, the pandemic, as context. Obstacle is the Way is a book by Ryan Holiday that we highly recommend you to read. The book is a modern interpretation of the notion that when an obstacle stands in your way, you can use it as the solution. It's about perception, action, and willpower. It's about turning a challenge into an opportunity and how to change your perspective and how to be successful at what you do. This is very timely in the world we live in today. You have to do your best and try to shift your perspective with what's presented to you. So even if an obstacle prevents you from attaining your goal, in the act of working hard to overcome it, you'll undoubtedly learn something that will serve you well in the future. And this pandemic might feel like an obstacle, but it is nothing else than a challenge and an opportunity. And it's up to you to turn this into your advantage. For those of us who've been lucky enough to stay healthy, it feels that this pandemic has revealed how much we needed to be in charge of our lives, our purpose, and our careers. We've seen during this last year, especially in the design field, that people have taken the opportunity to express creativity and jump into entrepreneurship. It was time for them to decide for themselves what they wanted to do, be, or become, and take action. And they used the obstacle to find their way. This pandemic really challenged us to rethink, to pause before action, and to consider carefully our new way of doing things. And we at WantedDesign, with Odile and our team, we had to adapt, and we experienced changes, lots of changes. And more than anything, the situation forced us to stay focused and focus on what we love doing. It guided us to eliminate what was not essential, to be pragmatic. And through the changes, we faced the challenge of rethinking our business model completely, reorganized the team, and then we moved forward with the same energy that we've had since day one. We made sure to surround ourselves with like-minded people who also believed in opportunities and who saw the challenge as a way to grow. So for you, leaving school and starting a career is intimidating, especially in the current situation, but it should also create motivation. And facing the wall is scary, but if you understand the wall you have to climb, then you can find a way over it. And accepting you can't control everything, accepting that you have to deal with what is presented to you, but be in charge and decide how you look at it and how you look at your future. This is what's important. And it's important because that's how you can bounce back and adapt, especially in a situation like today. You can act and decide the path you want to create for yourself with creativity, energy, persistence, flexibility, and strategy. And then the obstacle becomes your way. There's another book we want to share with you. It is more of an activity book. It's called Design the Life You Love by designer ICFF. And this book can really guide you to apply your design thinking to your career. Your career is your first design brief. So use your designer's mind, use your design process to look at your professional life. It's a very powerful exercise that you can do at any point in your career or life. And we at WantedDesign with Odile, we sit down on a regular basis, now on Zoom, to analyze and dissect, make changes, and take action, but making sure we are working towards our goals. And through the process of starting your career, you might be making mistakes, and that's okay. It's part of the process. We make mistakes all the time. But the most important is to look back, humble yourself, and understand what didn't work and why, then pause, and then keep going, making adjustments. And that's what we try to do. We want you to believe in yourself as a designer, find your purpose, find why you want to be a designer today, and then work hard and follow your dreams. we have a really nice success story to share with you that illustrates well what we just talked about. Odile?
Absolutely. So we have many success stories. It was hard to pick, few of those stories to share with you. But yes, one of those is a great example of someone who debuted actually at WantedDesign in 2013, and that we have been following since then. He's the Chicago-based designer, Steven Hollenbeek. And you can look at the image right now, that's him. His path illustrates perfectly the notion of perseverance and also knowing what you are good at, what you really want to do, what your goals are, and how to get there. He is also someone that is super generous and understanding the value of collaborations and sharing resources. So he organized a group exhibit with designers, friends from Chicago, designers and makers, to present as a collective at WantedDesign in 2013. So it was called Chicagoland. And they did it again in 2014. They met many people, but him in particular met Giulio Capellini that year. He was also part of one of the talks we organized at the Man Museum. He was selected in 2016 to be the American Design Honors recipient, an award that we present with Jerry Elling from Bernard Design. So he was again presenting his latest work at WantedDesign. Then he was invited in residency in France at the Meisenthal workshop to work on glass, experiment with glass. He was this year invited by Giulio Capellini to work on a project with him that was presented in Milan. And really his obsession was continuing to work on very unique piece and ultimately be represented by a gallery. And that's what happened. Now he's actually at Carpenter's Gallery, which is one of the most, recognized collectible design gallery. They have galleries in Paris, in the UK, in New York, and they represent him. His work is there, and it's about acquired by collectors from all over the world. So his passion is experimenting with materials. In particular, he's using ice, and in Chicago, it's super cold. So he has a lot of ice, and he creates molds to create his pieces from bronze to glass to many materials. So it's absolutely unique. Of course, he works a lot, but he's also good. He understands that he needs to communicate, to have good materials, beautiful photographies. He's on social media, and really we can tell that he succeeded in achieving his dream, his business model dream, and being able to continue his creative path. So again, it's one of the many success stories, but look at him. He's really a wonderful designer, and we are really proud and excited for him that he's able now to be exactly where he wants to be. So that brings us to another notion that we feel is super important today, again, more than ever. It's generosity and empathy. So what does it mean? Empathy is the ability to emotionally understand what other people feel, see things from their point of view, and imagine yourself in their place. Essentially, it is putting yourself in someone else's position and feeling what they must be feeling and envisioning what they are experiencing. And I would say, even if it's a very far and unknown territory for you, always use your sensibility as much as your creative skills. We think the pandemic situation has certainly already changed a little bit the way you are looking at your career, at what you want to focus on, and the way you want to work and live. Definitely not for yourself, but for and with the others. So something to always keep in mind when you are working on a project, it's not about you, but about what you can bring to the others, how you can best respond to the problem, how much work you are ready to put into it. And it's always working with others and sharing knowledge. As you probably know, the more you give, the more you share, the more also you will receive and learn. So go as far as you can when starting a new project, when pursuing a new idea, when responding to a brief. focus where there are problems to solve rather than well-known areas and trying to duplicate existing solutions. Don't be afraid about difficult and complicated projects or the ones that may not be the most glamorous and appealing at first, because you will feel so proud and rewarded when you will successfully put your creativity into it and solve it. That's a rule that we naturally applied as well to us as we walked along the years with so many people from around the world with different resources and support. And I'd like to mention a workshop we organized a few years ago at Central University in Mexico. We organized the workshop with them. The topic was design under pressure. And it was in response to the terrible earthquake that happened in Mexico the year before. So we invited about 30 students from different schools from the US. We also had students from France, from Salvador. And we all brought them together in Mexico City. And we put them in the situation like if they were living this natural catastrophe in Mexico. And they had to respond creatively to it and bring solutions to access food, medical care, shelters, communication. So they had 24 hours nonstop to bring solutions. And the ultimate goal was to come up with what we call the Design Emergency Force Manifesto that hopefully could be implemented in all big cities. The idea was really, what if we had designers in every big cities to think about resolving problems in a time of emergency? So maybe we will share the link in the box later, because it's a really interesting project that we really love, that really expressed this notion of generosity and empathy. The outcome was amazing and really illustrate really well those notions. What was nice as well is what brings us to the next slide and next topic we want to talk about is friendship, creating friendship. And those students at the end of this particular workshop became close friends. I have to say, I think everyone was crying at the end. So let's talk about friendship and creating your network.
So as Odile mentioned already, and as we can testify for, collaboration is key. When you make friends and when you surround yourself with like-minded people who share the same design ethos, you get closer to your goals. You become part of a community and you don't have to move forward alone. So it's reassuring. Remember that what you fear, other designers might fear it too. And we always encourage young designers when they come to us for advice to get out there, meet people, attend events. I know right now it's not ideal, but it will come back. Ask questions, engage with their peers, exchange ideas. And if you feel that you want to connect with designers you admire, you can do it on social media. You don't need to be directly connected. There are so many ways now that are available to you to build your network. It's key to start building your network as soon as possible, because you might meet people today, tomorrow, that will influence your path in a big way. So don't wait and grab these contacts, make friends. We've seen many designers grow in the past decade, and the most successful ones are the ones who don't stay quiet, the ones who open their minds, share their ideas, and collaborate with others. There's a story we want to share with you that happened recently. It's a COVID baby, as we can say. This project was born during the pandemic in June last year. Just to give you a little bit of context, after canceling all our events, all of them, mid-March last year, including our signature program, the Design Schools workshop, we paused for a moment, took a deep breath, and decided to keep going and to do something else. So we decided to host some online events in place of our traditional events. It was a way for us to tell the designers and our network, you're not alone. We're still here for you. We want to stay connected and keep the conversation alive. So with that in mind, we revisited the design school's workshop, and probably thanks to the experience with Centro a couple of years before, and instead of a 5-day in-person workshop, we hosted a 48-hour design charrette with schools from France and the US, with 30 students based everywhere in the world, literally, because they were all confined somewhere. So we had people on different time zones and all online. And keep in mind, this is the beginning of the pandemic, so we didn't quite understand what was going on. It was a pretty sleepless experience for the students. But what was beautiful was to see these young, recently graduated designers who were willing to take part of the workshop on a last-minute call without really understanding what they were getting themselves into. But they were curious. They said yes, and they went for it. There's one team who really stood out, even though it was not the winning project. It was Team B. The topic of the workshop was how can design respond to the current pandemic? And the specific theme for Team B was confinement and mental health. So Team B was composed of 3 students who didn't know each other, never met, were from different schools, had completely different backgrounds, different culture, different mother tongue. Laura is from Puerto Rico, Naïs is from France, and Kesuki originally from Japan, based in Chicago. Their project, Listen, Let's Talk, was presented to our jury after 48 hours of intense teamwork. And keep in mind, again, this is all happening online with time difference. And with Listen, Let's Talk, they came up with this card game, which was their answer to help couples communicate better during confinement. Very smart project. The project was very well presented, very intelligent, responding to the brief. They also made a beautiful presentation, came up with a logo, card design, the rules of the game. I mean, it was super impressive to see what they produced in such a short amount of time. The jury loved it and they got second place. But they didn't stop there. When they could have simply got back to their lives, they decided together as a team to keep going and push the project forward. So they put a Kickstarter together, reached their financial goal, finalized the design of the game, figured out production, and in less than 10 months after they met during that workshop, the first games were delivered to their Kickstarter backers, including us, and the first clients. So now we're proud to sell the game at the WantedDesign store in Brooklyn. It was pretty amazing. And we keep talking about them because we're so grateful we were able to witness such a beautiful story. And it's a story of friendship, generosity, and passion. And they were able to achieve something amazing. And now this experience will mark their professional and personal lives forever. The key to this was that they first said yes. And they were curious enough to jump into this, which takes us to our next slide, being curious.
Yes, be curious. And let's start with a nice quote from Achille Castiglioni, that I'm sure you all know. If you are not curious, forget it. So yes, please be curious. Always share your thoughts, ask questions, look for answers. Honestly, one of the most exciting things we are doing every day are the unplanned and unexpected ones. You will realize that it is taking a path that was not in your radar or obvious. It's speaking with someone new. It's accepting an invitation to a place you never planned to go before. It's trying something you had never done before or a tool you never used before. It's opening a door you never opened before. Be curious. And we have many examples of amazing things that happened to curious young designers, in addition to the story that Claire just said. I mean, for example, many students who came from abroad to participate to WantedDesign, they took full advantage of being in New York, of being part of WantedDesign. They will talk to everyone to search for opportunities. Some of them will find an internship in New York and then potentially a job because they realized that's where they wanted to live. But all that came first because they were curious, and then they meet people, and then they have opportunities. So really, that's super important. Constantly curious, talk to people, don't be shy, and go out of your comfort zone. I'm sure your teachers are telling you that. And this is how we run WantedDesign, always being curious and interested in hearing the stories, new stories, meeting people, new people. And honestly, this is the best part of what we do and the only way we can build something meaningful. So discover, knock on the doors, reach out to the world, and let the world come to you. But you won't build your career just with those notions. To achieve your professional dreams, you will also have to think about your career model, right? And potentially your business model. Right, Claire? Let's talk about business.
Yes, that's my forte. Love that part.
She loves it.
Yeah, last but not least, the business advice. The big question, as you might be asking yourself, and you're going to keep asking yourself maybe for a while as a young professional designer, is how do I make money being a designer? We don't really have a clear answer on that, but we can offer some guidance to figure it out. When you finish school, you have several options. You can start your own studio alone or in collaboration with one or more designers. You can work for a design firm, or you can join an organization's design team, for example. You have different paths, and you can pick the one that's right for you. You can start with one and change your mind later and shift career, and that's totally fine. The key is to get moving and get started. So if you want to become an independent designer and work for yourself, you must think about what it means to start a business. You might not like it, and you will have to deal with finances, accounting, business plans, marketing, SEO, and social media and newsletter and all this fun stuff. And I know this is the part that some of you really do not enjoy. But if you want to start your own studio, you have to make a business plan. And this is a topic on its own, and we are not specialists, but we will give you a very important advice. Take this step very seriously. There are plenty of resources online that you can tap into. That's also where your network comes handy. So remember when we talk about making friends, well, that's when you call them because they might be really good at accounting. If you don't know how to do something yourself, think about collaborating with others who have different skills than you. And what's key is to understand what your strengths and weaknesses are so you can put your strength to work and find ways to compensate for your weaknesses. And this is part of the business plan homework. So it's important that you spend some time on that. I'll give you a quick example. If you want to be part of Launchpad at WantedDesign, which is a program we co-present with Design Milk every year, it's dedicated to designers who start their career. So you would participate to WantedDesign Manhattan trade show, present your prototype, meet people, network, collect prospects. And let's say you're very talented and your prototype looks great, but you are very shy and you're terrified to talk to people. It's okay. As long as you know that before you come to the show and you come prepared. Our advice in that case would be bring a friend along. Bring a friend who can talk to people for you and collect business cards and staff your booth, basically. When you go home after the show, you need to follow up and write to all visitors who gave you and your friends their business cards. And maybe you feel awkward and don't know how to reach out to them. And then same thing, we would suggest, well, go online and find a tutorial about it and literally type on Google, look for good business practice and type how to follow up with prospect after a trade show. So you don't need to be good at everything. That's really important to understand. You just need to come prepared. And again, that's what a business plan forces you to do. It's a great exercise because it forces you to answer questions and prepare for building a healthy business, even if it's really small. Launching a studio can feel overwhelming, but if you have a vision for it, if you persist, work hard, and follow the steps of a business plan, it will happen. It works. Also, having your own studio, that's something we talked a lot about with designers. It doesn't mean having a big brand and having tons of employees. It's about shaping the business that fits you and that fits your life at a certain time. And that's when Design the Life You Love, the book we mentioned earlier, comes very handy. So starting a business is one thing and scaling is another thing. Some designer might decide to grow fast and hire and build a team when others want to stay small their entire career. And there are no rules. You decide. And if you're not an entrepreneur at heart, it's totally fine too. You still want to treat your career as a design project and apply your creative thinking and positive energy to your job search. What is important for you? What do you want to work on? What is unique about your profile? What's your purpose? You can write it down and make plans and use your network, your friends. So never stop nurturing your creativity and working on your design skills. Be part of the conversation, make your voice and vision heard to others. I mentioned Launchpad briefly earlier, and the success story that Odile is going to share with you is about this young, shy Turkish designer who participated to Launchpad at WantedDesign in 2016.
Absolutely. We want to end this presentation with a really nice story. And hopefully after that, we have a little bit of time for questions. But yeah, we want to share this inspiring and nice success story from the Launchpad program. So the story is about Turkish-born designer Begum Kanausgur, who graduated from Cranbrook in 2013. So she participated in Launchpad at WantedDesign in 2016, presenting her textile prototypes, in particular this beautiful rug, gradient colors that you can see on this image. So she presented that, and that year, like many other years, Nani Marquina visited the show. So you may know Nani Marquina. She's Spanish, and she has this beautiful brand of rugs. And she was visiting the show with her team and scouting for young designers to work with. She was one of the manufacturers that fell in love with Begum's work. And I think we can see on one of the pictures that Giulio Capellini is actually here watching the same prototypes. So anyway, Nani Marquina decided to collaborate with her and to produce the rug collection under the brand names. So the Shade collection, that's the name of the collection that you can see, was developed and launched 2 years later in all the big trade shows in New York, Paris, Milan, within the main trade show. So Begum was invited to go there to present, to do the launch of the collection. She met all the press, she met all the designers and interior designers sourcing their product. She really, really was everywhere. Now the collection is still part, of course, is one of the main collection part of the brand. It's now also an outdoor collection. She's developing new projects with them, and she, of course, met many people to work with now. She works on other materials, other kind of product. So we can say that this beautiful person and shy person, really, this experience was life-changing and was really the launch of her career. So we love her, we love her product, and we love that story because, again, that's a great example of a beautiful young career and young person. So with that story, with those beautiful visuals that we have on the screen, we are ending this presentation. We hope you are all still there. Wait a little bit before going for dinner. And maybe Josh, we turn to you. We can see, I think we have some questions. So let's start the conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Claire and Odile. That was an enlightening and inspiring conversation, and wonderful how synergistic your roles continue to be as you volley seamlessly back and forth. We do have quite a number of questions, and I'm going to do my best to get to all of them. Sometimes I'll combine them to create some efficiencies. I did want to start with one opening question. As you mentioned, it's hard to convey the energy and the ethos of Wanted Design, but I can say, having experienced it so many times, that each time I arrived at the opening night for Wanted Design and stood in line, behind literally thousands of people who are wrapping the building area to get in, that energy is amazing. And for the young designers, students who are listening, I really hope everyone gets a chance to, at some point in their career, participate in this event, because when for the first time you arrive at a design event, which feels like a rock concert, you feel in a way that you're not alone. You've met your tribe. There are people who are so passionate about design that they treat it like Mardi Gras, like a giant party. I mean, it really is there's so much energy and so much passion for design that you've been able to galvanize with Wanted. And I just wanted to share that impression, because of course it's hard to do that in a slideshow. Anyway, that's just to set up the feeling that you've created over this last decade or so. But my question is, those of us who've been around long enough to have seen New York Design Week before Wanted Design know that it was wanting something like what we saw each year in Milan for the last several decades. And in some ways, I think we could say you've taken elements of that and remixed it and grown it to something very different in New York. But the energy that one would find in Milan, in some way you've recreated or expanded on in New York. My question is, what do you feel is different about American design and New York design? What's different about the event that you've created in New York from the Milan event or from other design events around the world?
Who started? No, I think we can say, Claire, that one thing that defined the event is that it was really how we, at that time, and as you know by now, we were both French originally. So after 20 years in New York, what?
We're still French.
We are French American. Anyway, so we had an idea of what New York is for us. And we really, this mix of culture, of the blend of the people, the energy, you talk about energy, Josh, and that's exactly, I mean, the first impression you get when you are in New York is the energy. I mean, the first time I arrived in New York, walking on the street, I felt like I was plugged on an electric power, and there is this energy, and that's exactly, we had, and we still have this amazing energy that New York gives you. So we really wanted to share that. And the second thing is, of course, we traveled and we went to Milan and we knew that, and we were like, oh, there is nothing like that in New York. But to be honest, we didn't even look too much at the other events. We were like, let's not compare, because New York is so unique. New York is so original. So we can't duplicate something like the format of Milan or what is happening in London or Paris, because we felt we have to do something that really reflects New York. And that was really the point of departure of this event, is to do something that really deeply reflects what New York is for us. And I think that's what defined and what that was the point of departure, and still how we want to do our event is to stay original and to stay something that is also very personal. So I think that's maybe also the thing that was different from the other event. We never thought about, oh, we are selling booths, or we are like taking, we were like, we were talking to people we loved, and we were curating this event with just product, people, and conversation that we wanted to have personally. So Claire, I don't know, is that correct?
Yeah, no, it's a good resume, and it's true. Like we always thought of our events and New York Design Week as a unique way to do it, because it's New York. And so trying to reflect what New York is in what we do. And we always say, like, we would have never done this anywhere else. We might have done it differently, but the way it is now, and why WantedDesign is what it is because of the mix of culture and this energy. And because we are the product of that, we came with maybe a more naive approach. We were very naive. We were like, oh, let's bring people together and let's let them also own the events. That was an important thing for us. We didn't want to be like running an event, directing things. We stayed open, and we really applied, like, everything that we put in that presentation shouldn't sound like we're giving lessons. It's more a reflection on what we applied to ourselves and what worked, and keeping our minds open, being curious, and being generous, and just being who we are and what we do without the first year we didn't have a very clear agenda.
And being honest, I think, being honest. We never pretended you will see, if you participate, you'll have 50,000 visitors. We never say that. We said, let's try something. And we didn't really know, but I think honesty was something that really also was super important. We never pretended something that we knew we couldn't achieve. So a lot of honesty in what we did. Yeah.
These are great answers. I'll just comment by saying that I think one thing that you have been extraordinarily successful with your platform is creating an accessible space for American design, because so much of the dialogue has happened in other points in the world. And I think I've witnessed it from the students and from young designers in this country that your platform has created accessibility, which I think is quite important. Mm-hmm. I want to get to some of the questions here. One says, at the heart of business, maybe this is a good one for you, Claire. The heart of business is the exchange of value. How does a designer illustrate their value to a potential client, partner, or employer?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and we get that a lot, where it's this confusion of how you translate what you do as a designer into business value. Well, Odile touched on it a little bit earlier. It's what's unique about you. It's your personality. It's, as a designer, you might have certain skills, but then your peers might have the same skills as you. And one can be more talented than the other, but at the end, if you can do the job, you have the same skill. What makes a difference and what's valuable as a business to hire you or work with you is your personality, and the fact that you're generous, and that you design with empathy, and that you are a conscious designer, that you're going to give your client the sustainable answer, and it's that uniqueness about your profile that is the most valuable as a business.
And your ability to create the relationship. I think that's what is going to be key to develop the business, is to create the relationship.
There are a number of questions that focus on relationships. I think here's one which just kind of simplifies the topic. When placing yourself in one of the largest cities in the world, like New York, how do you go about making friends and connections in such a big environment? Sort of the quintessential, how do I start my network question?
All the time. I mean, I don't think there's the perfect answer for that, but the answer is all the time. You should always show up and you should always connect. Like if you are interested in what we say right now, send us an email if you have something to share. Just start on social media if that's a medium you're comfortable with. Or start by email if that's something you like to do. Send emails to people. That works too. And I know New York is overwhelming, but it's also a tiny design community. It's a really small world. We all know each other pretty much, and it's a very generous world of people. What we loved with Odile in this industry is how nice people are. People are genuinely nice in design, and it's maybe true in every industry, but at least we can say for sure that in our industry people are nice and generous and they like to collaborate. So just get out there and start connecting with everybody.
Yeah, go in the showrooms, talk to the showroom manager. When you are there, you may meet an interior designer, an architect. I mean, right now it's a bit a special time, but usually in a normal time, every week there is something happening in Soho or in the Nomad. I mean, you can just show up and go to the event when there is something, visit the fair. I would say that's the time you want to be there. I mean, if you have to book one ticket and you have to save money for one trip, save the one at least to go to New York, even before going to Milan or New York. Please, if you are based in the US, plan to go to New York, visit the show, visit the design week. That's really essential. And then, like Claire said, never hesitate to email or knock the door or ask someone, can you introduce me to this person? I mean, again, it's super easy. And as Claire said, it's small world. When you started in 2010, we just talked to, ABC Home. At that time we had the Conran shop, and I mean, just you go there, you create your network very easily. Go to AIA there or IIDA, or there is young students chapter, IIDA students chapter. You can be a member. It's super easy. They organize IDSA for product designer. They have a specific, students chapter. You can be invited to those networking events in New York with the local chapter. So yeah, I think we can advise you to really look at all the professional organization, student chapter, and that's a very nice way to meet your peers. Yeah.
I like your advice about going to New York for Design Week.
Please.
I mean, if we just hover at 30,000 feet, the moral of the story, I suppose, is that everybody's already there. So if you put yourself there, you increase your chances of meeting, more connected people in the industry.
Yeah. So, drive together. You rent a car, or maybe someone of you have a car, and you go. You pack the car and you rent a one bedroom and you all sleep together. That's okay. But go to New York during the design week. You will meet so many interesting people for sure.
Another question is, what advice would you give to a woman just starting out in their design career?
Is that specific to a woman, it says?
Yeah.
As opposed to being a man? Or as opposed to,
I mean, that's what the question says. My
I guess the question is it challenging for a woman maybe more than for a man? Yeah, I honestly no, I don't think so. Or we had some stories that it can be more complicated, but honestly, that's the same advice we will give to anyone, any genders. It's just being yourself, being passionate. And that's the only advice we can give.
We know a lot of very successful women designers.
Yeah.
A lot of them. So
no,
No, no specific advice.
Fair enough. Okay. Next is, what type of work culture do you feel best promotes team collaboration among designers?
It's hard to say right now because of the situation. Like, I feel that the work culture has changed so much over the past year. One thing that happened before the pandemic was that a lot of designers would get together, share a studio, share resources. Like, if you're a designer maker, for example, there are amazing spaces here at Industry City where you can share the machinery and things like that. So in that sense, the work culture was very collaborative. But now I feel the work culture, how to say, for everyone is very individual, and that's when we really need to get back out there and keep attending events. And the fact that this person is asking a question means that he or she is already doing that work of nurturing the culture of conversation, which is probably the most important in our industry, keeping the conversation alive.
And we felt that in the US, I mean, I don't want to compare US versus Europe, but since we have many connections as well in Europe, there is a work culture, I feel, in the US that is much more collaborative than in Europe, for sure. I mean, and so many European designers told us, oh, they were looking at the US, model as, wow, this is great. You have those hubs in different places in the US, in North America, and everyone is sharing, spaces and tools and ideas. When in Europe, it may be much more protective and individual. And so I think this is something we really appreciated. And I've also observed during those last years meeting with many designers is that, and that's a good thing. There is really a sense of working together and helping each other. And yeah, I think that's an interesting way to work and a good one here in the US.
I want to stitch together a few questions here and ask you both about your partnership with the ICFF, the International Contemporary Furniture Fair, which was sort of the stakeholder in New York Design Week before you began, and also what you think the future of Design Week and ICFF and Wanted might look like in the coming years.
So can I start with the first question, and Claire, you take the second part? I don't know. So we always told ourselves, I mean, we didn't know we will last 10 years, I have to say. We celebrated the 10th anniversary last year. So when we started, we didn't really know what will happen. But when we were like, okay, 6 years, 7 years, we're like, okay, when we will be 10 years with the event, we will have to have a plan to go to next step, because honestly, we did a lot by ourselves. It was a very, very teeny team. We basically are handling everything. And we knew that we achieved the maximum we could do as a small team. And we knew we will need to have partners if we wanted to go to next step and do more and to expand our events. So interestingly, so we worked on that. We worked on a few scenarios. And interestingly, in 2019, we started this conversation with ICFF, who was also looking for kind of repositioning the show, refreshing, bring a little bit of new, how do I phrase that? Yeah, to infuse a little bit of
a fresh perspective.
Oh, thank you. Fresh perspective on the show. And the conversation took place. And so we realized that it was really beneficial for both of us to partner. And so they were very interested by the show WantedDesign Manhattan. And just to remind, so that we had at that time WantedDesign Manhattan more trade focused, Brooklyn being more like a festival with all the more cultural exhibition and the schools and the workshop. And they were interested uniquely by Wanted Design Manhattan. And for us, that was a good way to actually combine our force with them, benefit from their resources, and continue to, independently from that, to continue to operate everything else we are doing, the store and the other program we do with the schools and Wanted Design in Brooklyn, et cetera, et cetera. So we firmed this deal in October 2019. And a few months later, so we were supposed to launch the first show, Wanted Design Manhattan, at the Javits next to the ICFF. In May 2020, and to celebrate the 10th anniversary with that, it didn't happen, but it will happen. Hopefully in November, we'll have the show at the Javit next to ICFF. And before that, we are doing the second edition of Close Up, which is something we actually produced together with ICFF last October, and that we are bringing back in May, since we cannot yet produce the show in person. But honestly, it was an interesting experience, and I think a valuable partnership, again, working together with ICFF team. Importantly, we want to keep the essence, the DNA of Wanted Design Manhattan, and we are working closely with ICFF. So the two shows next to each other are really complementary. And so ICFF being more the main, brands, and Wanted Design Manhattan being really the hub for discovering new talents. And we have the lookbook, the launchpad, all that will continue to live under the Wanted Design Manhattan umbrella and space in the Javit. So it's going to be all new for us when we move to the Javit, but it's really a nice way for us to continue to grow this trade show and continue on the side also to do the other program we are doing. Great.
Well, I think that's probably a good way for us to wrap up, as we're a bit over our hour together. I do want to thank you both for your sharing so much of your experience and your wisdom. Your generosity is always present every time I've interacted with you all and Wanted Design. There's a kind of I guess friendship in the air everywhere, and we know that emanates from the two of you and your team. So I think you certainly practice what you preach. So thank you again so much for tonight. I want to thank everybody for joining us and encourage you all to follow Wanted Design as it unfolds digitally and then in person when the time is right. And thanks to everyone for following the lecture series this year. As I mentioned, tonight is our last of the academic year, but do follow us on social media, join our mailing list to learn about the exciting speakers we have coming in the fall. So I wish everybody good health and take good care.
Thank you, Josh. Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much.